Go live, daggone it. Okay. Hello, everyone. How are you all doing today? I guess I'm a little out of practice. I've been MIA. We've had so many events and everything that this is crazy. I'm live over here, but it's not showing up that I'm live. Okay, I guess I'm just live. It's not hey Donna. Normally, you all know that we are live everywhere. I'm sure we're live everywhere. This is a new system that we're using. So, we are definitely live and we have so much to talk about today. And I appreciate everybody for coming in. And like I said, we have had so many events since March. And I'm excited that we have sort of wound down a little bit. Thank God we've wound down a little bit until September and October. And so I'll be going live more often. But tonight, we have so much stuff to talk about. We have to talk about that the U.S. approves the cultivated cells. It's the first lab grown meat. So it's not going to be like a chicken. It's going to be grown from cultivated cells. We're going to talk about the impeachment process that the Republicans are going for against Joe Biden. We're also going to talk about DeSantis, who is also suing the Biden administration. We also are going to talk about the Titan, and I know you all have had a lot of information on the Titan. And thank you, Donna. I'm glad I look good. I'm sweating. Um, there's been so much information and coverage on the Titan that it is definitely a hot topic, and I'm going to get everybody's opinion on what you feel that is it justified as far as the resources that was used, who will pay for the resources, and things of that nature. Oh, also, I want to tell you, y'all, it's merch day. Wait a minute, which side? Merch day. And I got my Save News earrings. These are custom made. You know, you got to call me if you want a pair. But if you want a t-shirt, Save News is down in the bottom on YouTube, and you can order from there. But anyway, let's get into it. Let's not delay any longer. I'm sort of off kilter because my clock is not up here, and I'm accustomed to my clock being up here, and I'm wondering how I am live and it's not up here. But okay. Uh, let me share this screen and let us get down to the business. We're going to start off with this cultivated meat. So let's get it. All right. So anyway, the U.S. This is coming from the Associated Press. The U.S. approves meat grown from animal cells. Now, like I stated, this is the first time that U.S. regulators approve the sale of chicken that is made from animal cells, allowing 2 California companies to offer lab grown meat. Now, since this article has come out, there's also a restaurant in DC that is offering it. And from my understanding, this restaurateur owns about 4 or 5 additional restaurants in the DC metropolitan area. Okay, the MDV. Okay, so the Agriculture Department gave the green light to Upside Foods and Good Meat firms that have been racing to be the first U.S. to sell meat that doesn't come from slaughtered animals. Now, I know some people, because I was talking to a friend of mine, they were saying, well, you have the Impossible Burger and all this. No, this is not it. This is cells grown, that is cell cultivated meat that emerges out of a laboratory and onto your dinner plate. The move launches a new era of meat production to eliminate harm to animals and drastically reduces the environmental impacts of grazing, growing feed for animals, and animal waste. Uh, I'm going to want my whole real chicken, okay? I'm not going to want a sale chicken. I want a real chicken. So, get with your local landowners, your local farmers, and get you a real chicken, because this is not, as far as being proven, as far as the side effects being tested on humans, as far as what the long-term effects are. The main thing that they're talking about is the environment and, harm to animals. But what about harm to humans? Okay. Um, it also says the company received approval for federal inspections required to sell meat and poultry in the U.S. The action come months after the Food and Drug Administration deemed that products from both companies are safe to eat. And I'm wondering, what test market do they use this in? How do they know it's safe to eat? Who volunteered to be the samplers of this? And how long was this meat tested as far as consumption? And how long was it tested for, side effects? Does it cause cancer? Does it cause other diseases and things of that nature? Okay, the manufacturing company called Join Biologics, which works with good meats, was also cleared to make the product. Cultivated meat is grown in steel tanks using cells that come from living animals, a fertilized egg, or a special bank of stored cells. In upside cases, it comes in a large sheet that are on a form, and it's shaped into chicken cutlets and sausages. Woo! Good Meat, which already sells cultivated meat in Singapore. So if you're a worldwide traveler, you might have been eating some of this meat. I'm wondering if there's going to be regulations that require the producer of this meat to tell people that it is cultivated meat versus real meat. The first country to allow it turns masses of chicken cells into cutlets, nuggets, shredded meat, and sautés. So that is in Singapore that's being done that. Now everybody want to contact me now. But let's get on. But do look for this novel meat in the U.S. grocery stores anytime soon. Don't look for it. Praise God. Cultivated meat is much more expensive than meat from whole farm birds and cannot be produced to the scale of traditional meat. So that's now, but I'm sure that even though that it is very expensive to produce now, the more they produce it, the cheaper it's going to get, and the sooner you're going to start seeing it on your shelves. The company plans to serve new food first in exclusive restaurants. Upside has partnered with a San Francisco restaurant called Bar Churn, which good meat dishes will be served at the Washington, D.C. restaurant run by chef and owner Jose Andres. Okay, so y'all tell me, what do you all think of this? Do you all think that this is something that you would want on your plate? Do you want to have good meat on your plate? Or do you want real meat on your plate? Personally speaking, I am all for the real meat on my plate. So anyway, we've talked about that. Now we're going to go on to the Titanic expedition. I'm going to show you all a few videos, and we're going to look at this video, and I want to get your input on it. Tell me what you think, so we can definitely break down this video. Now, a lot of people are, of course, talking about this. Let's put it up on our screen and let's get to it. Let me take the
operation of the Titan submersible and the potential ramifications for its owner, OceanGate. Satellite images show some of the international resources that rushed the area about 700 kilometers off St. John's. 9 vessels remained in the area as of late yesterday. The costly effort included assets and personnel from Canada, the U.S., France, and Britain. Some are staying on to continue mapping the debris field about 500 meters away from the Titanic. Others.
Okay, so let's talk about the resources that's being used for, yeah, Donna. You would try it? No, I'm not going to try it. I'm going to get me a real chicken. But I'm gonna get me a real chicken. I'm not eating that. But anyway, to the Coast Guard, and the resources that's being used for this Titan. Now, you had 2 billionaires up there. Do you feel that maybe that they should absorb the cost? There were several countries involved with this rescue, this expedition, and this really wasn't an expedition. This was more like a tourist event because there was no expedition done. Okay,
are returning to base. It's unclear who, if anyone, will launch an inquiry into what went wrong. That's because OceanGate, while based in the U.S., operated in international waters where no Coast Guard has jurisdiction. Travis Danraj has more.
That's another interesting thing, that there was no jurisdiction regarding this expedition, this tourist event that went on. They paid $250,000 to be on this ship. I mean, not ship, but submersible, and that's what they call it. They don't call it a submarine; they call it a submersible. $250,000 per person, and the 19-year-old said that he did not want to go. That was
on the recovery operation from St. John's.
The hull of the Titan basically was strewn into 2 major debris fields. Now, they did find 5 major parts of that hull, including the nose section and also the back section. I want to show you some exclusive photos that CBC News has just obtained of the Titan on Sunday being towed out of St. John's Harbor. That's, of course, when it left here to go to the North Atlantic, to go to the site where the Titanic was, and then go explore that area with those 5 passengers on board.
Now, for those that's new, I have to keep stopping and starting to do commentary because of the fact that we don't want to get a copyright strike here. But one of the things that was being said is that the implosion happened on Sunday, and we're wondering why was that not announced sooner. So hopefully we're going to get some of these answers in this right here.
Certainly, there are a lot of questions right now when it comes to the timeline of when this catastrophic event happened. U.S. media reporting that Navy sources are saying that their underwater sonar detected some kind of implosion, likely on Sunday. So that would have been during that descent or when the vessel was trying to come up, because there are different theories now as to whether or not that catastrophic event happened while it was going down or when it was trying to come back up. So certainly, as I said, a lot of questions right now, a lot of the military assets coming back to port, those military aircraft going back to their bases as well. But there will be some assets that still stay out and try to get some more of that wreckage for the investigation.
Now that's another thing that we're talking about because it was in international waters. So the question is, who has jurisdiction over this? The submersible was launched from Canada into international waters, although it's a United States company, and it had several passengers from other countries on it. One theory is that there will definitely be an investigation and it will be done similar to, let's say, an airplane that would crash in international waters.
The company is facing a lot of criticism right now for this mission, and OceanGate faced a lot of criticism for the construction of Titan and for what, a lot of industry experts said was experimental construction for years now. Back to 2018, when a lot of industry experts put out a letter specifically to Stockton Rush saying that they were concerned that there could be some sort of minor event or catastrophic event here as well.
Now, also, one of the things that I'm sure you all heard this is that not only did a collective group of people warn him of the possibility of a fatality and the dangers of this submersible, but also a previous employee warned them continuously, who eventually got terminated from his job, and they were embattled in a lawsuit because he was terminated.
There, as I said, are a number of theories when it comes to exactly what happened. James Cameron, who directed the famous movie Titanic, he talked a little to Anderson Cooper last night about what he thinks happened.
Well, Anderson Cooper is not the yes, most definitely. I think that Ocean Gate should pay, but the question is, do they have any insurance? Because it was never certified. So they might not have any insurance. And that's a question that that is definitely, we definitely want to explore, because there was a lot of resources used for this, and there was a ship full of migrants, almost 500 lost at sea, but the resources that was used is nothing compared to this right here. This, you willfully went, and I'm not trying to sound harsh or cruel or anything like that, but they willfully went on this journey, and they decided that this was something that they wanted to do. When you paid $250,000, they was talking about the amount of times they had to sign the disclosure that it could result in intimate death. So you knew exactly what the perils could be, and it's sad. And like I said, I'm not trying to be cruel, but this is a lot of money that's been exhausted. And and one of the things I'm seeing on social media a lot is, well, if you all spent this type of money trying to find lost children, there would be none. Okay. This type of energy. But there's been a lot of criticism on how this was being handled as far as resources.
The only way for the ship to know that they had dropped their ascent weights, which would be an emergency abort, is if they had called that in, that they were ascending. So I believe now that they had some warning, that they heard some acoustic signature of the hull beginning to delaminate. I actually believe they heard it with their ears, not through the sensor system, in the last moments of their lives, and that's quite a horrifying prospect.
Yeah, so it is it's sad that they experience this, because it is definitely something that nobody would want to experience during this time. You know what I'm saying? Nobody would want to experience this. It had to be definitely very traumatizing for the people that was up there to be having to hear the noise And the death, it had definitely was a terrible, terrible death. And I'm sure that it was a terrible death. I'm sure it was a terrible death. And I sympathize, and my prayers go out to the family members and everything of that nature. So it's just a sad situation all the way around. Okay, let's get back to it.
That they had dropped their ascent weights, which would be an emergency abort, as if they had called that in, that they were ascending. So I believe now that they had some warning, that they heard some acoustic signature of the hull beginning to delaminate. I actually believe they heard it with their ears, not through the sensor system, in the last moments of their lives, and that's quite a horrifying prospect.
So that part of a wide-ranging interview that the director did with CNN's Anderson Cooper last night. Cooper is here in St. John's, and I talked to him about the chip.
Now, also, we have, I'm going to skip some of this interview because they have a professor here out of North Carolina that goes in depth about this ship. So let's hear this.
Mercogliano. He is a maritime historian at Campbell University in North Carolina. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So just maybe explain to viewers how the Titan was different. It's funny, so many different questions from people saying, well, other people have gone down in submersibles.
Most submersibles that operate in the deep area are largely spherical objects built out of one material, steel, titanium. The difference with Titan was it was built out of two different materials, and it wasn't a sphere, but actually more like a cone or a tube shaped. The end caps were made of titanium, but the center hull, the round tube part where the passengers rode, was out of this carbon fiber material. And you have to join those two materials together, and the different shape, and because
now that's one thing he's talking about, the two different materials. But one thing I noticed about this particular ship, and I hope you all can see, can you all see this area right here? It's between two, even though this isn't the part with two different materials, I see a seam that looked like it might have an issue right in here. But the part that has two different parts is up here. But if you can see this right here, this seam is not flushed on this vessel. And I'm wondering if the leak, I'm by no means a submersible expert.
Also, the composite material is what made this such an experimental craft.
Then why use different materials if the other materials had worked in the past?
Let me go back just a millisecond. This is what it's talking about. This is one type of material here, and this is the other type of material. And these are the ones that had to be fused together right here. And that's where their concern was versus using the same type of material universally throughout the vessel.
Other materials had worked in the past.
The other materials create a spherical object in which you can put people in, but you can't put that many people into a sphere, largely because this craft was designed to bring passengers down to the Titanic. You needed a larger object. So you either have to build a much larger sphere, or you come up with this kind of tubular shape that they used.
Okay. So, and then my question also is, why would you have civilians on this? I know that, especially since it hadn't been tested. I'm going to speed this up for copyright purposes.
So it had gone down to the Titanic in the past. So this is what happened this time. Why this massive tragedy?
Well, this is where the issue comes up about classification of this craft. The craft had been used since 2021. This was their third season in operation. And what a classification society does, it's a third-party entity that inspects your craft to ensure that the integrity and all the machinery is maintaining. They have kind of a schedule that's in place for hull monitoring. And again, because of this radically new design and the use of new material, the owner, the CEO of the company, basically eschewed the use of a classification society because he argued it would take too long for them to catch up to his technology.
Essentially broke regulations?
He did. Well, this is where we get into this gray area because you're operating in international waters beyond the 12-mile limits of Canada. This is international waters, so that he did not break any rules or regulations. Now, understand the deep submergence industry is a well-maintained industry. This is the first major incident since it started in 1960. There's been no loss at sea until this happened.
So
Now that's baffling. You know, you haven't broken any rules or regulations, but you know, it's the industry is self-regulated. There's never been a problem. But when you get all the people within that industry writing letters to him, and he still ignores the warning, then I think that they should have came together to try to put something in place to avoid things like this.
if there is this sort of space that, he didn't break regulations, how does that gap close?
Well, I think you actually have to go back to, of all things, the Titanic sinking, which sank in 1912. And then 2 years later in London, you have the convention, what's known as the Safety of Life at Sea Convention, the SOLAS Convention. And that mandated requirements for lifeboats and life jackets and distress rockets and 24-hour monitoring so that all ships had to meet an international standard. And that was required not just by the flags that were flown from the ships, but from the ports they sailed into. It gave them authority to inspect those vessels. And I think one of the things you're going to see here is changes in laws, particularly in Canada, since this expedition originated in Canada, came off a Canadian vessel, about submersible laws.
So if you look at Canada, what will Canada specifically have to do about these submersible laws?
I think they're going to have to put in standards and requirements for the safe operation of these vessels. We see them around the world today. The United States has laws regarding who could pilot and operate submersibles. You see submersibles being used in areas like the Bahamas and off coral reefs to bring passengers in. But this was a very unique environment and a very unhospitable environment where any danger, any kind of flaw in this craft could result in the loss of it. And I think Canada's going to have to relook at what laws it has on the books regarding submersible expeditions that originate and end back in their ports.
Do you know much about Canada's laws on submersibles? I'm sorry, I don't.
Canada is very light on maritime laws in general because of the fact that there's not many ships that are currently registered in Canada. And so this is an area that's really going to need to be looked at. This industry, again, has been a very well self-regulated industry by establishing classification society.
Well, sometimes self-regulation don't work. And, you know, you have an issue like this where you have people that don't listen. When you have people that don't listen, then it's time for regulations, and they should have been proactive instead of reactive, like they're going to have to be put in that position now because of this Titan catastrophe.
And one of the reasons why classification societies are largely used has to do with insurance. And so I have a really big question about who insured this expedition for the liabilities that could have incurred with a loss like this.
See, now even the historian have the same questions that I had. Who's going to, is there any insurance? Who would have insured such a experimental vessel? And so hopefully this will come out in time if it was insured. I don't believe that there was any insurance on this. I just don't.
So I'm just trying to clarify some things here because it's quite fascinating. Do you feel that they launched from Canada because maybe our laws are light, as you say?
No, I think the expedition stemmed from Canada because of its location close to the wreck site. But I do think that there were a kind of a void here in the use of such vessels. And again, you don't see the use. I mean, no one is really taking passengers down to to 4,000 meters. It's just a very unique nature that is Titanic. And I think we're really finding ourselves where we were in the beginning of the aviation industry, where corporations, governments, and very rich people were able to use aviation. Today, we think nothing about getting on an airplane and flying at 40,000 feet. I think we're going to be at a point in the submersible industry where people will go on a submersible, go down 14,000 feet without thinking. We're just not there yet.
Okay, so that's true. We're not there yet. And there was one more video I wanted to show you all regarding this issue. Let me pull it up right quick because I thought this was very telling. And I'm going to pull this up right quick for us. And let's see. Okay, now let me share my screen so we can watch this together, because this is very interesting. Um, this interview here. Okay, let me put this on my screen here, and let's watch this here.
What it was doing. I think that's pretty clear. I wish I had been more vocal about that, but I think I was unaware that they weren't certified because I wasn't really studying it. I wasn't really interested. Stockton Rush asked me if I wanted to go out there and dive this season. I wasn't interested. There was a lot of concern about this outfit and this sub. A lot of concern, even to the extent that I wasn't involved in it because I was making Avatar 2 at the time, but a lot of them got together and wrote a letter to OceanGate and said, you have to certify. You cannot take people down. It's irresponsible. And it could lead to catastrophe. Monday morning, when I first found out about the incident, got on a whole bunch of calls and emails. It's a small community. Within an hour and a half, I had the following information. They were on descent. They were at 3,500 feet. They lost comms and tracking. The last one being the critical one, because the transponder that's used to track a sub during descent and on the bottom.
Okay, so now this is very interesting because director James Cameron, he was the director of the Titan, and he took many dives down to the Titanic prior to filming and the Titanic movie. And he's a longtime diver, and he's in this community, but he refused to go on this vessel. But like I stated, I'm going, we can talk about this particular thing forever because it is a long discussion, and we have several other topics we want to go through, and I don't want to spend all this time on this, but I wanted to just give you all some information on this because it is, it's just astounding to me why this was not talked about, as far as, why wasn't it released earlier that there was heard an explosion? I'm sure they wanted to be 100% sure and continue to have hope, but it's just, that's not it. That's not it. So next on the docket, we're moving on. We're going to talk about Hunter Biden. Yes, Hunter Biden. And as you know, and you might not know, Hunter Biden was pled guilty, and so let's talk about it. Okay, so the GOP released testimony of whistleblowers claiming interference in Hunter Biden's case. The House of Representatives released testimony on Thursday, yesterday, from two IRS whistleblowers who alleged that the Justice Department interfered with their years-long investigation into President Biden's son, Hunter, a charge the department swiftly denied. Now, there's been a lot of things, if you've been following, and I apologize, I'm gonna get back on track with my lives. I'm gonna do better, especially between now and the next couple of months. But as far as bringing information, but there's been a lot of things released regarding these federal agencies doing nefarious things. So anyway, let's go on. The House Ways and Means Committee, led by Republican Jason Smith, voted to publicly disclose congressional testimony of two former IRS agents who worked on the federal investigation into the younger Biden's taxes and foreign business dealing. Whistleblowers described how the Biden Justice Department intervened and overstepped in a campaign to protect the son of Joe Biden by delaying, divulging, and denying an ongoing investigation into Hunter Biden's alleged tax crimes. Testimony from two individuals, Greg Shapley and an unidentified IRS agent, detailed that they called a pattern of slow walking investigation steps and delaying enforcement actions months before the election. But it's unclear whether the conflict they describe amounts of internal disagreements about how to pursue the wide-ranging probe or pattern of interference and preferential treatment. The department policy has long warned prosecutors to take care in charging cases with potential political overtones around the time of an election to avoid any possible influence on the outcome. Well, we all know that there was a mass, we've talked about this several times on the show. There's been a mass effort to hide the laptop down to the social media. Every time you talked about it or somebody posted it, Twitter, Facebook, the rest of them would put out false misinformation. And it wasn't really until Elon Musk bought Twitter that these things were released. So anyway, let's get back to some of this thing. The Justice Department denied the whistleblower's claim, saying the U.S. attorney in charge of Hunter Biden's probe, David West, who was appointed by former President Donald Trump, had full authority over the case. The release of the testimony comes just 2 days after Hunter Biden, 53, announced he would plead guilty to misdemeanor tax offenses as a part of an agreement with the Justice Department. Isn't that convenient, y'all? 2 days after. And he's out on parole already. Okay. I'm sure it was more than most, but he got charged with a misdemeanor as part of an agreement with the Justice Department. The agreement made public Tuesday will also avert prosecution on a felony charge of illegally possessing a firearm as a drug user, as long as he adheres to the conditions agreed to in court. Now, I mean, we all know that this is favoritism. This is definitely favoritism. This is just my personal opinion, but yeah, we're dealing with favoritism here. You're going to plead guilty to a misdemeanor of tax offenses, but you're going to be let off on the possession of firearms as a drug user, which is a felony. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's get back to it. Congressional Republicans called the plea deal a sweetheart deal. Yeah, that's what it was, a sweetheart deal for the president's son, and another example of the two-tier justice system that goes easy on Democrats. They also pledged to continue their own investigation into the Biden family and what they call their efforts to trade off the presidency. First, the IRS whistleblower Shapley came forward in April when his attorney reached the GOP Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa to say that his client had information about failure to mitigate clear conflicts of interest in ultimate depositions of what was then an ongoing criminal investigation related to Hunter Biden. Okay. In hours-long testimony, Shapley described several roadblocks that he and several other IRS agents of the case faced when trying to interview individuals relevant to the case. So now that's, so there's definitely have been roadblocks. I always like to put the receipts in the chat for you all to be able to go and read for yourself. I'm gonna put the receipt on this video, on this article in the chat for you to go and look at it for yourself. Now, what I want to do, since I brought up the IRS, is that now, because we're going on a journey here, the IRS heavily armed IRS agents raided a Montana gun shop. Now, this is interesting. We have what would seem like there's been a pattern here of the federal agencies going rogue and overstepping their authority because we have now IRS agents heavily armed going into a gun shop. So I want to play this so you all can hear this for yourself. These are things that's going on in this world. There's so much news going on that it's hard for me to, I try to keep it at an hour, but sometimes I might have to go over. And it's like me playing catch up because, this is an election year, and you all know I'm going to be on my grind with doing what we need to do here to make sure stuff is going on. But let's talk about these IRS agents that seized forms 4473s, and they did not have, it was not included in the warrant that they were able to seize those forms.
Raid of a Montana gun shop. Is that what all those IRS gun exercises were about? Joining us now to discuss is John Crump, a special projects coordinator for Gun Owners of America and writer for Ammo Land. John, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So my eyes do not deceive me on this headline you have here at Ammo Land, right? That it was IRS agents, heavily armed IRS agents, and not ATF agents who were serving this warrant?
There was IRS agents. There was about 20 IRS agents. They were assisted by the ATF, but this was an IRS raid. They raided the gun store because they claimed that the owner has not declared millions of dollars worth of sales, which he denies. So the IRS agents showed up and they took financial records, and then they also took all the 4473s, which is the background check forms.
Okay, so now this is what is really interesting. It's one thing to have the IRS raid a gun store, or to do a raid, but for them to take the forms 4473, which is the background checks, they should not have access to that. And how does that impact the privacy of those individuals that have purchased guns, their background checks? And, he's going to go into more detail as far as believing that there is a database, even though it's illegal for the government to have a database of gun owners. But, he's going to break it down for us. So let's move forward on this little video here.
Which was not on the search warrant, and legally they were not supposed to be able to take. But the owner...
Okay, so let's hear that again. Let me back up for a second. There you go. Here you go.
Not supposed to be able to take, but was not on the... which is the background check forms, which was not on the search warrant, and legally they were not supposed to be able to take. But the owner was told by the ATF that he must turn them over to the IRS.
Okay, so now that sounds like some strong arm pressure. Even though, legally they can't take it, it's not on the search warrant, but you got heavily armed officers telling you to turn over these forms. Now, either, what do you do in a case like that? Do you just go on and turn it over? Or you sit there and argue with them? I mean, there was, I can understand the owner turning them over. Maybe he didn't have an attorney at the ready that he could call or something of that nature. He probably didn't know what to do. This probably was a total shock to him.
It is strange. Why do you think, or why did the ATF tell him that he had to comply? Like you said, that some of these documents were not even on the search warrant. So I think, didn't the ATF coordinator, senior coordinator, whoever, whatever his title was, supervisor, I think, he told the gun shop owner one thing, but then I think kind of backtracked to something else?
That is correct. At first, he told him what the law is, and you don't have to turn over the 4473s because they're not listed on the search warrant, and the IRS is not entitled to those forms. But then he backtracked after talking to the IRS and decided that the owner must comply with the IRS's demand.
Okay, so now that's interesting. So the law as ITF agents, that the forms are not listed on the search warrant and you do not have authority to take them. But instead of going by the law and knowing that if it's not on the search warrant, you have no authority to take them, you decide to talk to the IRS agent and they say, oh, okay, well, we want them, so take them anyway. And you decide to go against the law of the land And I'm sure these ITF agents know what a search warrant is, know what they can do. They're not, they're not green as far as being newbies. Sure, they might have had one or two of them up there that might have been new, but they had a supervisor up there that knew that this was illegal, and they continued to go down the path of, you got to turn them over now because the IRS agent said so. No, the judge that have the authority that signed the warrant did not put those forms on the warrant. Okay? That's who has the authority, not the IRS agents. And I can understand the gun owners, shop owner being there, with these armed law enforcement telling them to turn it over. So, what you do? That's a fear tactic. That's intimidation.
Demands to turn over the 4473s, and the owner didn't want to get arrested, so he went ahead and gave them the forms that they asked for, which is
so now I'm wondering, which he did not state, were the gun shop owner threatened with arrest if he didn't turn it those 4473s over, even though they were not on the search warrant, and the supervisor should have known it was illegal to take those forms because the judge didn't sign off on it.
a very scary thing because it lists not only what he sold to people, but who he sold it to, the addresses, personal information, social security numbers, and any sort of identifiable information.
Does it almost seem like a phishing campaign that they were using one allegation, like you said, the gun shop owner, he denies all those allegations about financial issues, but that they use that so they could kind of get the toe in the door, if you will, to kind of say, well, what else can we find here? And then use it as a phishing expedition to, I don't know, it seems like they always are trying to create basically a national registry of guns, even though that's illegal, they're not supposed to, but it seems like that's what it always kind of circles back to, would you?
Right. So that's what it seemed like to be, because why would the IRS agents need? And that's why the judge, they might have asked for it. And see, that's another question that we must ask. When they went to get the warrant from the judge to raid this gun shop, did they ask the judge for the 4473s? And did the judge deny them that request to put it on the warrant because there was no need for them to have that of other people's information? Because I'm sure they probably asked the judge for it and the judge denied it. But then they get into the gun shop. And this is a theory now. I'm not trying to be conspiracy. I'm just putting it out here and you all tell me. Because it seems like she said, it seems like there's a need to do a national registry of gun owners. But let's pull it back just a little bit and listen to this again. This part here again.
Legal, they're not supposed to, but it seems like that's what it always kind of circles back to, would you say?
Absolutely. If you look at the number of gun shops that had their FFLs revoked, it's up 500%. And we have found out that there's nearly a billion records in Martinsburg, West Virginia, that has been digitally scanned into a computer system, which the...
Okay, so if they scan a billion records into a computer system, then I'm going to call that a database. Maybe 10 or 20, 100, even a couple of thousands in the nation. That's not a registry, but you're talking about a billion records. Okay. That's a database. That's a national registry, which is illegal.
The ETF says it's not a registry, but if you take a billion records and put people's names along with serial numbers of firearms, you can call it a registry or you can call it a searchable database. I choose to call it a registry because there's really no difference.
All right. So what do you all call it? I call it a registry. So, I wanted to make sure I got that information out to you all. It seems like there's a lot of overreach that's happening with the government right now. I don't know why. I don't know, but our rights are being infringed upon a lot. And so I'm hoping that everybody really understand that when you start going to the polls. But like I said, you all know this is we're wrapping up for election. So we're going to be definitely talking about some of these candidates. Make sure locally, yes, this is a gun registry. When you got a billion records, but make sure you vote your locally, and make sure not by what they say, but what they do. Take your time to investigate these candidates, because that's what we're going to be doing as usual. We're going to be investigating some of these candidates from state to state, because we're seeing our nation going through things that I know the majority of the people are not here for. They're not interested in certain things happening, the rights being taken away, and it's just becoming absolutely um, it's becoming absolutely insane here, the way these things are um, happening. So I'm just saying, we as a nation, we have to look at who we're voting for, who we're putting in office, and everything like that. So I'm gonna lighten this up a little bit, because then I'm gonna end off with this impeachment thing. So I'm gonna go over to a little entertainment thing here but this is definitely a gun registry, and for them to raid, I mean, there's a process. Was this man not given some form of audit notice for audit, that they just came in and raided his records? I mean, it seemed like this is just so out of order, and how things are that this whole situation went down. And maybe they're skipping some information they're not giving or something like that. But the IRS don't, you file your taxes, and then they just don't all of a sudden come. They shouldn't raid you because you owe back taxes. Seem like they would have did an audit or send you notifications or something. So I don't know whether there's things missing out of this story or what. But one thing about it, I do know, is that if they've scanned billions of documents in a registry, it is a database. It's a registry. That's what I'm gonna call it. So anyway, for which is a little good news, and then we're gonna go on to some more heavy news where we get into this impeachment process. But now the city of Detroit drops the lawsuit against gospel singer Marvin Winans for his church. And the officials of Detroit have officially dropped the lawsuit against gospel singer Marvin Winans and his Perfecting Church in Michigan. The lawsuit was levied against Winans and his church after they failed to complete an 18-year-old church building project at Woodward Avenue and West 7 Mile Road. Now, I'm going to stop here because I am, grew up in church. So we know one thing for sure is that these churches be having building funds. So how much did they have a building fund? Did they take up money and they just not do the work? And for those that don't know who Marvin Winans is, if you're familiar with BB and CC Winans, the gospel singers, mom and pop Winans, it's their parent, his mom and father. BB and CC is his sister and brother. Okay, but I'm glad it was dismissed. But I also want to know if there was funds that haven't been put to use to repair the building. But anyway, under a stipulation order of dismissal, both reached a resolution in which they believe will result in Perfecting Church resuming construction at their 7 Mile and Woodward Avenue location. The agreement includes specific commitments from the Perfecting Church to the city of Detroit regarding the timeline of construction. Okay. I'm just wondering how much money has been raised and appropriated for this project, and they just didn't do it. I'm just, I'm wondering. Okay. The lawsuit claimed that the construction site was a nuisance. Yeah, I can imagine. But in the recent agreement, the church and the city of Detroit said work on the project could resume as early as spring 2024. Huh? Wait a minute. Hold up. hold up. Why does he need a whole year, almost a whole year, to start doing the work on this project if it's a nuisance? I mean, why is it taking so long to even get this thing done? Why does he have to wait almost another year to start back doing work on this? I'm just, you know, I'm telling you, these, y'all know that I be on these politicians' head. I also would be on these pastors' head, because I'm asking, did he, use the funds for something else? Did they raise any money? What's the deal here? Why they got to wait a whole year to start back working on it? Why haven't? First of all, why wasn't it completed? But anyway, let's see. City officials had initially asked the church to clean up its property by April 3rd, or it will return to the city for the building to be demolished and the land sold. The land was sold to Perfecting Church in 2005. Child. For $13,000. Initially a 4,200 seat auditorium of worship, a 3,500 square foot administrative building, a parking lot, and condominiums were planned to be built on the property. Now, I'm just reading this article, but I'm telling you, you're talking about almost 20 years that you've had this property, and you still working on it, and you need to next year to resume working on it. They bought that land in March of 2005. This is ridiculous. Perfecting is a term affectionately is experiencing the favor of God as he proves himself by adding to the ministry. Perfecting Church will soon relocate to 7 Mile and Woodward. The new campus, which has over 20 acres, will include a 4,300 excuse me, sanctuary. Oh, I just read that condominiums. Well, no, they just repeated it. As ministry, Perfecting strives to obtain the purposes of which God is called. So I'm just gonna tell you, y'all, be wise, seek God. Regardless of what church, whoever's in charge of it, because there's no reason for them to have this property for almost 20 years. And the fame level, I could see if it was a small, even a larger church in a small town but we're talking about the Winans here. This man he's made probably millions of dollars gospel singing and contracts and different other things. And you have not, in 20 years, you haven't completed this project, almost 20 years, and you need to next year to start back working on it. Girl, I'm telling you, y'all be wise with I'm putting this in the I closed it out. But no, let me put it in because you all can read it for yourself. But I'm telling you, you all be wise when you sit under a ministry or whatever, because I'm sure they took up plenty of money for the cause of this. Oh, wait a minute. I got to do DeSantis before I do Joe Biden. I forgot about DeSantis. Y'all forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for reminding me that we're talking about DeSantis also. Because we know he's running for president. So he's on he's like, hey, wait a minute. We can ready to sue Joe Biden administration. Okay, so here we go. DeSantis sues Biden administration of a university accreditation system. And, I know a lot of people. Let's get into the article, and then we'll do some commentary through this. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced Thursday that the state has filed a lawsuit against the Biden administration and the U.S. Department of Education of accreditation agencies, which control federal aid for students. The lawsuit filed Wednesday in Fort Lauderdale federal court challenges a federal law that requires colleges and universities to submit to private accreditors to qualify for federal funding. It targets the U.S. Department of Education Secretary Miguel Cardona and other federal officials. The lawsuit comes as DeSantis is seeking a 2024 Republican presidential nomination, imposes his conservative agenda on the state's education system. Earlier this year, he appointed trustees to the board of New College of Florida, a tiny Sarasota school of about 1,000 students that was best known for its progressive thoughts and creative use. So this new system. Okay, what happened? I just I fell down. Was I on the screen all this time? I hope I was. But anyway, I don't know what happened. I fell down. There's something going on with this new system. And I'm hoping that when I stop this stream that it stops and I will be able to end this live and it won't continually be live without me shutting my computer down all the way. And now it's not allowing me to put this in the chat, so I don't know what's going on with this thing. Okay, let me. There it go. I'm telling you, honey. Technology is a beautiful thing until uh, until you get to the point where you need it to act properly. But this is a new system that's going through, so there's going to be some glitches, unfortunately. But anyway, now we going to the headline and story before we get here. And that is the House Republicans said, hold up. We getting ready to impeach you. So let's see what the House Republicans said. Okay, the House Republicans push off Biden impeachment bid for as a hard right clamors for action. Now, before I get into this article, again, I want you all to think, impeachment, what would this look like? Okay, so if he's impeached, then that means that Kamala Harris would be president and she will appoint a vice president. Now, I'm not trying to be funny, but Kamala could not even get 3% of the votes in her own, throughout when she was running for president. I've seen nothing that Kamala has done as vice president, and she has a horrible track record. I'm not a Biden fan by no stretch of the imaginations. I think he's absolutely horrible. I think that he should be, really, they shouldn't have ran him. He was too old for the job. I think at this point it's elder abuse, but that's my personal opinion. But also we got to look at what's the alternative. Then we'll have Kamala, which is not much better, and whoever she chooses as a VP, which will probably be, people thinking Nancy Pelosi, but I'm gonna tell you who she would choose as her VP, and that would be Gavin Newsom. Okay, I'm telling you, that's my personal opinion. But anyway, let's get into this article right here, because Gavin Newsom, who is Nancy Pelosi's nephew, is definitely waiting in the wings for a run. Okay, but anyway, let's get into this impeachment. Eager to impeach President Joe Biden, hard-right House Republicans forced a vote on Thursday that sent the matter to the congressional committees in a clear demonstration of the challenge that Speaker Kevin McCarthy faces in controlling the majority party. The ability of a single lawmaker in a 435-member House to drive an impeachment resolution this week caught Republicans off guard, and many of them viewed it as a distraction from other priorities. Nah, I don't think it's the Republicans that say it's a distraction and took them off guard. I think that's coming from the Democrats. But anyway, come on, let's be real here. But anyway, the measure charges Biden with high crimes and misdemeanors over his handling of the U.S. border with Mexico. Okay. And then if I have time tonight, I'm going to show you another video of this no-fly city in Texas that is full of over almost 100 of illegal immigrants. And it's not just, some people think that the Mexican border is just full of people from Mexico. No, people from all around the world are crossing over that border. Our enemies, there's trafficking, there's drugs, there's all kinds of things, people from all around the world coming through that border. We had there was an article came out about a month ago, 3 weeks ago, where a couple came from Afghanistan. They were coming from Afghanistan, crossing all other countries to come through the southern border to immigrate. I'm telling you, it's not just Mexico and South America that's coming through that border. Okay, but anyway, Lauren Boebert, backed by allies, was able to use House rules to force a snap vote on such a grave constitutional matter. The 219 to 208 party line vote sent her resolution to committees for possible consideration like any other bill. They are under no obligation to do anything. See, and that's why I said up here, the article said that it took Republicans off guard. No, it didn't. Because if they voted 219 to 208 with party lines to impeach, to send this resolution on to the committee, then they weren't caught by surprise. You know, that's just some bad reporting here. She argued the House is taking historical action. The episode underscores the hold that the House conservative flank exerts over McCarthy, compelling him to accommodate their hard right priorities if he wants to stay in power. Well, we know how hard it took, how many votes it took for McCarthy to even get in that seat. So, you know, McCarthy gonna do what McCarthy need to do to stay in power. He wants power bad, because anybody that took that many votes to get into that seat, then you know, at the point of embarrassment, you know, just point of embarrassment. But anyway, let me go on. Conservatives are gearing up for more. The process that she employed is the same method that Representative Ann Paulina Luna, Republican of Florida, relied on to force a vote on Wednesday to censure Republican Adam Schiff over his investigations into Donald Trump's ties to Russia. There's going to be no end to this, Schiff said. Well, now let's look at it. I mean, come on now, Adam Schiff. Y'all were doing y'all thing when Trump was in office. There was no end to you all being petty. So, I mean, I'm not endorsing pettiness in the government, but, you know, y'all were petty. So it's their turn for them to be petty. Okay? So, you know, they're going to do them. So, you know, supposed to get mad because you all set the precedent for this type of legislation. This precedent was set by the Democrats when Trump was in office. So now that Biden is in office and the Republicans have power, then they're gonna do the same thing you all did. So ain't no sense in you being mad because you did it first. Okay. McCarthy has no control over his conference, Schiff said. The race to the extreme is now running the House of Representatives, and of course, it's doing terrible damage to the institution. Oh, boy, match. Boy, bye. What you all, it did no, okay. So what you're saying is when you all did it, it didn't do terrible damage to the institution. You know, it's hypocrisy. It really is, because y'all did the same thing. So why you mad? You should have known when the shift of power comes that they're going to do the same thing you do. And when the power shift again, you all going to do the same thing to them. You know, it is what it is. During Thursday's debate, Republicans were admonished multiple times by the presiding officer to tone down their remarks. Democrats argued that the case against Biden made a mockery of the seriousness of impeachment and was merely an attempt to distract from the twice impeached Trump and former Republican president, now indicted for hoarding classified documents under the Espionage Act. Okay, now we need to be consistent here. Now, if Trump hoarded documents through the and you know, you use the Espionage Act, we're gonna definitely need to go visit Biden. You know, they gave the VP, what's his name? Lord have mercy, I forget him because he's so irrelevant. Trump's VP, the you know, they said they wasn't gonna prosecute him. He had documents. We need to go back to every president. Obama had documents. Bush had documents. All of them took documents. You know, you're talking about Trump had documents in a shower. Well, Biden had them in a convertible. I mean, come on now. Let's we're gonna do this. Let's do this across the board, all the way across the board. Let's not cherry pick what we're gonna do to different people. No, we want to do it to everybody. Okay. So, okay, today they're dishonoring the House and dishonoring themselves by bringing to the floor this ridiculous impeachment referral resolution, said Massachusetts Representative Jim McGovern, a top Democrat on the House Rules Committee, suggesting Trump put his allies up to it. Okay. What did Nancy Pelosi and Schiff do twice? If you all do these things, you have to remember that people remember what you did. Now, that southern border is a problem. And there is no country that don't have control of their borders except for the United States. Could have, because, okay, thanks, Donna. But you could have, I don't know where I fell off the screen, but you could have a lot of, I don't know when I fell off the screen. This live has gone crazy. But anyway, let me get back on track. In the response to that claim, the justice, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong article. Let me get back over here to the right article. Let me close this out. A place. Okay, what is going on with this stream? I am definitely going to need to contact these people. Okay, let's get back over here. Okay, this body has become a place where extreme, outlandish, and nutty. Let me share my screen. Let's see if it's going to allow me to share this screen so you all can see this article. I'm going to put it in the chat also, so you all can read with me. Yeah. Let's put this in the chat because I don't know what's going on with this live stream, but it is what it is. But anyway, I got to keep, okay. So the body has become a place of extreme, outlandish, and nutty issues get debated passionately, and important ones not for all, McGovern said. In short, the Republican Party is a joke. The vote capped days of maneuvering by McCarthy, Republican California, to quell the uprising within his party over the roll call. Okay, this thing is going crazy. I'm going to have to end this live soon because I don't know what's going on here. I guess it's the people that don't want me talking about the impeachment of Biden, but I'm talking about it. The captive vote. Okay, the sudden impeachment of Biden would have political difficulty for GOP lawmakers and potentially embarrassing spectacle for McCarthy. Splitting his party. In a private meeting, McCarthy encouraged lawmakers to consider the traditional process for bringing such consequential legislation forward. Boebert had used that what is called a privilege resolution to force a vote. In the end, McCarthy negotiated a deal with her to send the Biden impeachment resolution for review to the House Judiciary Committee, and the House of Homeland Security Committee, fending off a vote for some time. Now, McCarthy, it is what it is. Listen, why you got an issue with impeaching Biden? Why you got an issue with him being impeached? Asking for a friend. But anyway, everybody, I definitely, we had a great show tonight, and I wanted to share something with you because I want you all to go and watch it. We did our women's empowerment and networking event. What is the thing? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna. I want you all to go up here and make sure you all get a chance to watch it. You can get your ticket. It's women's empowerment and networking event. If you are in business or anything of that nature, you definitely need to come up there and watch that show. Make sure you go over there and get a seat and watch that live. But anyway, everybody, again, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. If you love, wait a minute, let me get it together. My Save News earrings, they're exclusively made. You can send me an email at contact@savenews.com if you would like a pair. They're custom made, so it takes a while once you put your order in for it. It takes about, I think it took her about 2 or 3 weeks to custom do these. So you ladies, you can definitely get a pair. And if you love my t-shirt, Save News, there we go. Down at the bottom, get that also. And you on YouTube, you'll see the store down below so you can order your t-shirts. We have all kinds of merch, t-shirts, cups, all kinds of things. Well, anyway, everyone, I thank you so much for tuning in. I'm going to see if I can end this live because this is crazy the way this is doing tonight. So let's see if I can end it. All right, y'all be blessed. Let's see if we're going to end this. Okay, it says broadcast is already live. I understand that. Can I end?